So are the new stimulated universe world 9 Planar sets worth farming or not? In this video we're just going to be reviewing them and seeing on which characters they're going to work, if at all. And then finally we're going to see should you farm for them or not. So yeah, let's begin. So the first set we have is going to be Sigonia, the Unclaimed Desolation. When you equip this set, it's going to increase your crit rate by 4%, just period. It's just a flat 4% crit rate increase. You're always going to get that no matter what. And then you have when enemies are defeated, the wearer's crit damage is going to be increased by 4% up to a maximum of 10 stacks. So every time the enemy is defeated on the field, whether it's by the character holding this set or not, if another character on the field beats an enemy, it's going to count as a stack. For each stack, you're going to gain 4% crit damage increase up to 10 stacks, which means at a maximum, you're going to have 40% crit damage. As you guys can see, the obvious problem with this set is that you're going to have to beat enemies to gain stacks, and you're going to have to beat 10 enemies to have the full 40% crit damage increase. So even if you, let's say, have like 10 enemies in like a total stage of like Memory of Chaos or whatever, you're not going to be having like the full effects for the full uptime, because like when you beat 10 enemies, that's the end of the battle. You're not going to need this set anymore. So you're going to have more than 10 enemies facing you to like take full advantage out of this set, which is definitely not possible in like 99% of the game's content right now. The only scenario where this is kind of usable is going to be obviously the Pure Fiction. We're going to be getting a lot of like enemies in Pure Fiction, so this set is definitely going to be like pretty decent there. Even there, I don't think you're going to be able to like max out the full effect, because usually you're going to have like 2 waves of like 5 enemies. So when you beat like the 5 and then you beat the second 5, that means you got like half of the stacks. When you beat the second 5, like the battle ended. So it just like doesn't really matter. Or sometimes you have 3 waves, I think. But like the whole total number of enemies is generally going to be like 10 to 11, 12 maximum. You're going to have like 4, 4, and then 5, or 5, and then 5, and then 4, or something like that. So usually you're not going to have like the full effect of like the 100% usage of this set, because by the time you kill 10 enemies, the battle ended. To be able to use this set fully, as I said before, you're going to have more than 10 enemies. But yeah, either way, it's still going to be pretty good, even if you're not getting like the full stacks. But again, it's only on Pure Fiction. Anywhere else, it's definitely not going to be worth it on any character, even if they use like crit rate and crit damage. So generally, it's just going to be pretty good on like Erudition characters on Pure Fiction. That's it. For characters who can use it, obviously any character who can crit can use it technically. But yeah, as I said, in general, it's just not a good set outside of Pure Fiction. And the Pure Fiction content is not even all of that right now. Most people can just clear it. So it's not like you even need a new set for this mode specifically or anything like that. So I definitely not recommend farming this set like at all. The second set we have is going to be the Izumo, Gensei, and Takama Divine Realm. So it's going to increase your attack by 12%. That's a flat increase, which is pretty decent. And then when you enter battle, if you have at least one ally with the same path, then your crit rate is going to be increased by 12%, which is huge. The effect itself is definitely a huge effect. 12% crit rate is going to be super good on any character who needs crit rate. But if we look at the condition, it's also going to be kind of hard. The only way to activate this set fully is to have another character with the same path. That means if you're using like a destruction character, you're going to need to have another destruction, which in most cases is going to be hard, except for some teams or some cases that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But generally speaking, it's also not a very good condition. It's very limited. If you look at the 12% attack alone, it's definitely not going to be worth it as a set. So as a general set, I wouldn't really say it's going to be like that good, but as a specialized set, it's probably going to be very, very good. If you look at characters who can use that, obviously we have Acheron. Acheron's going to have the Trace passive. You're going to have to use 2 nihilities with Acheron, so you're going to be able to activate this set pretty easily. And even if you have her E2, generally you're still going to need to have at least 1 nihility, so this set is always going to be activated with Acheron. It's going to give you attack, which is pretty good, and also crit rate, which is super good on Acheron. So yeah, for Acheron, it's definitely going to be her best in slot, no doubt about that. The second clear good user for this set, and last one to be honest, is probably going to be Dr. Ratio and Topaz. If you're playing them together, they're both Hunt, so they're both going to be able to use this set. It's going to give them attack and crit rate, and they're both gonna appreciate that very well. I think it's gonna be their best in slot too, but again, only in this scenario. If you're using Dr. Ratio outside of a Topaz team, then it's not gonna work. The same thing with Topaz. If you're using her with like without a Hunt character, it's not gonna work, which is not good. If you farm this set for him specifically, basically you're just limiting him to like 1 character, which is my biggest problem with this set. It's gonna be very restrictive team wise. To be fair, Ratio and Topaz are generally used together most of the time, so if you want to get it for Ratio and you have him farm farmed for him yet, then I would say yeah, go for it. It is gonna be his new business slot probably, but it's definitely not gonna be far from like the Salsodo, for example, or the Glamet or something like that. It's probably gonna be like a 1-2% difference in general, so it's if you already farmed for him, it's definitely not worth it. And the Salsodo is gonna be a much more flexible set for him. You don't need any teams and stuff like that. It's gonna work on him on any team. So flexibility definitely goes to Salsodo. If you have it, it's definitely not worth it to refarm the new set. These are basically the only two scenarios where this set is gonna work like 100% properly that I can think of at least. Other than that, it's just gonna be like kind of meh. For example, you can use it with like Himiko if you're using her with another like erudition character. But the thing is, that's not always the case with Himiko. It's not as much as like Ratio and Topaz. Himiko can be used in many other teams, and these teams don't always include another erudition. So if you're using her with another erudition, for example, Herda or whatever, like Argenti, like, you know, some teams use that to like break faster and stuff like that, yeah, sure, go for it. But the thing is, these teams are not gonna be like very versatile, especially because you use them to break. So if the enemy's weakness is just different, then these teams are gone. So it's definitely not a practical set to farm for Himiko at all. And also the exact same thing with Herda. Yes, you're usually gonna be using her with another erudition. You're using her with like Clara, for example, or whatever, then yeah. But if not, this set is just gonna be unusable. So farming it specifically for them is definitely not worth it. The final case I can think of is gonna be like Xingliu and Blade. This set is gonna work on them too, but the thing is, I'm pretty sure it's not gonna be the business slot or anywhere close, because both of them can't really use it properly that much. Xingliu doesn't need that much crit rate, and then Blade doesn't need that much attack. So the full set is gonna be meh on both of them, even though it's gonna be usable, but hey. And again, it's just like a very restricted team, so we don't really want that. Alright, so now for the final conclusion, should you farm or not? Before we continue with that though, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to reach 7k here, so yeah, please hit the subscribe button. Did you do it? Thank you very much. But yeah, should you farm? So for the first one, the Sigonia, I don't think you should farm it at all, like never. At least right now, since the pure fiction is gonna be like pretty easy, I don't really see any reason why you're gonna need to farm this set at all. Maybe in the future where the pure fiction is gonna be like super hard that you need to take full advantage out of this set, then sure. But for right now, even any like erudition character with his like normal set, he can probably clear the pure fiction very easily. So yeah, this set is definitely not needed at all right now, so I'll just say skip. Any other scenario outside of pure fiction, you're gonna be getting like 3-4 stacks, which is just bad. Now for the second set, the Izumo, I'd say if you want to farm it for Akron or Dr. Ratio and Topaz, then go for it, but only if you don't already have a good set. If you have something like the Salota already, as I said before, for Dr. Ratio, it's definitely not gonna be worth it to farm. If you have something like the Glamet already, like a good set with good substats for Akron, I wouldn't really say it's gonna be worth it to farm this too. It's probably gonna be like a less than 5% difference, which is just not worth it. But yeah, if you didn't farm for them yet, then in that case, I'd say yeah, go for it. Other than that, for any other character than these three, I'd say it's definitely a skip. Also, it's a Planar set, so it's not like a set that you can just farm and leave there. It's gonna be kind of hard because you usually want to use like specific elemental damage on a character, so you're gonna have to farm multiple pieces and stuff like that, and it's not gonna be usable on many characters if you farm it. So it's definitely not a good investment for your account, I would say, and it's very limited. So yeah, at least for right now, I'd say these sets are both a skip. Unless you haven't farmed yet for Akron, Dr. Ratio, and Topaz, then you can farm that set. Other than that, the Stimulated Universe for level 9 is definitely gonna be a skip. So yeah, that was the video, guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next video. Peace.